So I reckon it's time for an update on the HZ 1-tonner, because it has been, well, it could be more than 18 months since I last posted about the actual HZ. There's been plenty of posts about the motorcycling side of Stace on Wheels, and a bit about the evolution of the 308 rebuild, but yeah, the HZ has been stalled somewhat. I've been working on it on and off, mostly off, over the last 18 months. Now, there's been plenty of distractions that have kind of kept me from being down here in the Z shed working on it, but the job that I'm doing is not the easiest one. And I've tried to make this video probably half a dozen times over the last 18 months as well, and not published any of it because I just didn't feel like I was making enough progress to share with you. But I guess an update is a useful thing to do, just so you know I haven't given up. So I'm still stripping the underside of the cab, and that has been what's taken all of this time, and I'm still not finished. So it's tough because I'm doing it manually. I think if I ever rebuilt a car again, I'd seriously consider getting it sandblasted, but I deliberately chose not to with this one. I really wanted a hobby, not a car. So I wanted to be incredibly hands-on with this rebuild. And I have been, and I'm not regretting that, but it is taking longer than I'd like. Now, plenty of life stuff's gotten in the way, so that's fine. That's just the way things are with hobbies. But hand stripping the underside of a car is pretty tough. I've been trying to figure out the best tools to use. There's all kinds of tight little places and nooks and crannies to try and get something into, and I still haven't figured out how to get all of the underside coating off yet. But as you can see, I'm getting pretty close to finished. So I think I must be 99% done with my angle grinder on all the open spaces and the flat areas that are pretty hard to get to. Where I'm working on now is kind of right under there. So I'm doing that on my side, and it kind of strains my neck a fair bit. And that's probably another reason, like in honesty, why this is taking so long, is it's a very uncomfortable job to do. It's been quite the sporadic year on the tonner, poor thing. Spent a lot of time on motorbikes. A fair bit of time on the 308 that's going to go into the 1-tonner, but to actually work on the cab, I think I've maybe had 3 days down here all year. A lot of that's due to a lot of rain. It's really hard to work in this shed when it is raining. And secondly, trying to get an air compressor so that I can use a sanding tool, air tool, to help get into the tight little places. Took a while to figure out how to get that. So I've really missed coming down here and working on the cab. I've had a few hours today and made only a tiny bit of progress, but at least it's moving forward. So I'd already done some grinding to get the paint off the underside of the cab, and today I just kind of continued that along, mostly with the angle grinder and a strip disc. And I'm going to need more strip discs pretty soon. It's kind of running out of enough meat to get into the tighter little places. Over here on the passenger side, there was a new floor pan put in. I think it was put in pretty well. I can't see any rust forming. When I was working on the inside, I couldn't see any rust, and on the outside, I haven't really seen any rust. And quite frankly, there's not really any rust anywhere. There's a little bit of surface rust down the inside of the sills, the inner sills. I'm not sure what they're called, but that's just surface rust, and it comes off super easy back to clean metal. All this black stuff I'm stripping off is just producing clean metal underneath it. And back here on the passenger side where this floor pan has been put in, it's just gooped up, I imagine, with seam sealer, but it's really thick. And if I hit it with the strip disc on the grinder, it just clogs up the strip disc. So I'm in a quandary about this, to be honest. It was done fairly well. I was going to strip it all back just so I had peace of mind that there was no rust in there, and the metal, you know, gets treated properly before it gets recoated. There's a bit of surface rust around here, and that is where the joint is, so that could be a minor concern. But yeah, it's just so hard to get this off. So yeah, I'm still kind of wondering the best way to do that. And it's quite thick, the stuff that's been painted underneath it, such that even when I try to get it with the strip disc, it kind of smears there rather than really removing it right back to clean metal. By the way, admire my cab mounting holes. Not a spot of rust on them. They're like factory new. How lucky. So those of you who have opted to take the same route that I have, which is not sandblasting, I'm sure you can appreciate just how many hours it takes to strip all the coating off the cab. I know it took days and days to do the inside, and it's going to take days to finish the underside as well. I haven't even got to the actual outside panels. That'll come when the underside is treated and coated, and then when the chassis is treated and coated, and then I can put the cab back on the chassis and then start working on the actual body panels. So I haven't got bored with this yet. It's just frustrating that I haven't been able to spend the time down here that I really wanted to. I originally had envisaged I'd have a day a week where I could come down and hang out and just work step by step on things. But yeah, like I said, for all sorts of reasons, it just hasn't happened so far this year. But yeah, the weather's, well, it's getting into winter, so there's not as much rain now. And also, I think if I organise myself a bit better, I might be able to just carve out a chunk of time every week, even if it's in an evening, to come down and keep working away at this. Yeah, it's frustrating, it's very slow, it's not the kind of material that makes for a great YouTube channel, but it is great material for me because it's capturing memories of what I'm learning and what I'm doing, and just the time I'm spending with this car. And when she's finished, I'll look back on all of this, I imagine, and just feel like, wow, that was so worth it, so satisfying, and I can just enjoy driving her. Maybe I should have let sleeping dogs lie, but I couldn't help myself where that rust was just there. I started grinding it back and managed to take off a fair chunk of the seam sealer. And it wasn't as challenging as I thought, but look, archaeology. This is the original floor where the rot had set in. There's some holes there, so I imagine just underneath here there's a bit more, what's that? It's kind of like the cab mounting box. So the floor would go up underneath this to the inside and then become the inside wall. So I imagine there's a bit more rot up in there. What I did was then grab a pick, and I've just kind of picked some of the seam sealer out from under there and from up in here, because I think if I can get as much of that out as possible, I'll be able to really scrub in there with the rust blast, the KBS stuff, to treat the metal. And it doesn't look like any more rust has continued, but there was that surface rust around there that I haven't been able to grind out a bit just in the seam there. But I just don't like it there, so I'm kind of glad in a way that I've decided to attack it. And in doing that, I realised two things. One, the seam seal is not so hard to get off with the strip disc. I just plugged away at it and it just kept taking more off, so I imagine that means it's working. And the other thing is, I remember when I was on the inside, I didn't get the seam sealer all the way out of the joints. I kind of just took it back a little bit like that, so it was kind of smoothed off. In some places I did pick it out where it wasn't too difficult, but I think I can just smear some more over that after I've put the rust blast on all the bare metal that I expose. The idea being that I just want as much of this metal to have rust blast on it, and KBS on it, and then seam seal whatever I can after that. That's as far as I got today. I am running out of light, and I have run out of batteries. So I have 2 of these 18-volt batteries, and I've used the equivalent of 4 batteries worth today with the grinder. That's the solar setup that's charging that, which is pretty convenient. Just to finish up today, I'm going to, I've just got a wet cleaning cloth. I'm just going to wipe down the surfaces that I have worked on, and then spray some WD-40 on it, which I've found has really been good at stopping any flash rusting happening in between these very long time periods of working on the cab. There's still hours and hours to go just to finish grinding that, but hopefully the next time you see the floor of this cab, it will be being prepped for the KBS. Hopefully that won't take too long. I think I finally worked out a rhythm today. So I got a new strip disc for the angle grinder, and it just cuts through all of the seam sealer and the really thick coating that seems to be on this passenger floor pan. So yeah, that's really good because I've managed to get most of the seam seal out that I wanted to, just leaving it kind of in the actual seam itself. So that's good. It's still kind of smearing around the place, but I'm not too worried about it because there is no rust here. Where there is a bit of rust, like over here around the floor drain, I'm going to be extra careful getting all the paint and coating and smearing off that so that the rust blast can really do its job. But in other places, like here, I just don't think it's going to matter because the metal's just perfect. So yeah, I have a rhythm. The grinder is doing obviously most of it, and the disc sander is getting into to little tighter gaps, tighter curves, I guess I should say, especially up under this lip. It's getting into that little corner really well. And on some of these raised parts, what do you call that? Like it's been bead rolled or something, to give the floor strength. Well, that curve there is sometimes a little bit too much for the grinder, so the disc sander gets in there nicely. And then I'm using my little right angle drill with a wire wheel, mostly to get into joins like this where I want to really clean out the paint, or if there's any surface rust in there. So that, I think that's doing a pretty good job actually. It obviously doesn't have the power that the disc sander and the angle grinder has, but you know, it's just being persistent. So yeah, it's cleaning up all the little, I'm a bit concerned about in here though. I can't get the air sander, the disc sander in there, and I can't get the angle grinder in to a lot of that. So unfortunately, I think it's going to be a case of using the right angled drill with the wire wheel. And then I don't know, what do I do with the places I can't reach with anything? I'll figure that out when I come to it. Feels good to be working on the cab again, finally. And on such a pretty day. Look at that. This has been super slow progress grinding off the underside of the cab, partly because, you know, taking up track days, and that has distracted me a fair bit this year, and also getting my petrol compressor to actually work properly so I can use the air tool. It's just the Honda GX200, the little motor running the air compressor, would backfire every time it would cycle down after recharging the tank. I've taken the carby off and cleaned it, and it seems to be going a little bit better. But yeah, I've really been disappointed with how much time I have not spent on the HZ. I'm kind of feeling a little bit uneasy about what I'm doing, if I'm honest. Aside from where the chassis rails kind of sat, this underside has been treated with something super thick and almost rubbery. I don't know what it is, and I'm almost half regretting taking it off, because everywhere I've stripped it off, the metal is in perfect condition. I have just discovered down here on this, is it a cross member of sorts, or a brace, some body filler, which kind of baffles me. I don't think I've ever heard of body filler going on the underside of a cab floor. So I'm kind of unfortunately hacking into that a bit while I'm taking this black rubbery coating off, and I don't know whether I'm going to have to take it all out before I do the KBS, or whether I can leave it out or redo it. I'm not really going to know until I've stripped that all back to see the extent of it. I'm pretty sure it's going to go all the way out to there, just based on how rough that feels. She has copped a little bit of a dent there as well, but that had no body filler in it. I don't know if you can kind of see that dent. Must have been a lot worse there, I guess. Don't know. So I'll keep working on this, grinding away, and hopefully in the meantime, if you're watching this and you have some experience with treating the underside of a cab, you might suggest what coating you think will be the best for this particular application. I've heard of Bully Liner, of course Raptor, and KBS. Because there's not a great deal of rust, I don't know that I really need to go down the KBS path. I'm really not sure. I'm obviously complete novice at this, so yeah, open to any suggestions or ideas that you have. Now, where I'm up to now is tricky parts that need more thought into how I'm going to get all the coating off. Like down here inside the inner sills. That's really quite difficult to get to. You probably can't see it. Let me get a light. So yeah, down there in the corner in the sills, I haven't got a tool yet that I can get in there with. I think at worst I'm going to have to use my right angle drill with the conical wire brush, and that should work. Also getting up under some of these places, I may still be able to do that with the grinder, but it's just a really odd angle, and I don't feel like I'm being very safe with the way I'm managing the grinder for that. Where else? Up behind, that's the handbrake pulley bracket, I guess. So up in behind there, I don't know what I'm going to use to get into there. I'm even thinking of trying a paint stripper for those tricky areas and seeing how I go. There's no surface rust developing on it, even though some of it's been stripped for nearly 1.5 years, because I give it a very lovely massage in WD-40 every time I work on it. And that's what you're seeing, all that black smearing, is the coating and the dust from the coating that's kind of smeared in with the WD-40 and just leaving that weird film. But I will be giving all of that a complete wash with, oil and grease remover. And then I'll see places that I've missed and I'll be able to go over it one more time. But it's in pretty good condition. I took a whole lot of bog out of this cross member here and got a lot of advice from other resto people that I should be getting that fixed. But quite honestly, that steel is so thick. It is a Holden after all, and it's not actually a welded in piece. It seems to be like, I can't see a weld seam anywhere. There has to be something going on there, I'm just not sure. I think that might be where there's a seam in the floor. Let me see. So yeah, it's the floor that's welded onto that. So this is one piece, I guess. And I don't really want to mess with that. I'm sure plenty of Holdens, especially utes and one-tonners, have copped big bashes underneath. There's even a bit of a dent there too. Big bashes underneath, and have lived on to do a lot of work. So I'm not worried about it. Like, I'm not building this to show it off. I'm building it to learn, and I'm building it so that it feels like mine, and then I'll drive it and I'll enjoy it and I'll know it like the back of my hand. So that doesn't bother me at all. As long as I know there's no rust in it, I know there's no cracking or anything, and I know that it's coated really well, it's not going to rust, at least for the rest of my lifetime with it, then I'm super happy. Today's plan is to finish off the larger areas that I can do with the grinder. Where's my grinder? And those areas that are left with the grinder are down underneath here, a little bit hard to reach. I actually have done most of that, as you can see. There's a little bit left down through there. And then it's going to be a question of what other tool is going to help me finish this off. Let's see, I've got to get under there too. I should be able to do that with the grinder. But I've only got 2 batteries today, and so I'll just make the most of the grinder and the drills that I have. I think I've done all I can with the grinder. I did put on a new strip disc because when you get that nice square edge, which is gone now, but had a nice square edge, it's so much easier to gouge into these little corners under there. I managed to get, you know, just tiny little bits of stuff done around the place, but there are parts I just don't know how to reach. And actually, this bit here, that is so thick with whatever the coating is, and I think partly it would have been slathered on because of the floor pan being replaced here. But I don't know how I'm going to get through that. The strip disc did get through it there, but that's the only part I can reach, really. These screws coming through the floor will just lacerate that strip disc and make it a spark show. So I could cut them off, I suppose, but then I could just put new ones in, I guess. There may have been little bits of surface rust here and there, like I think, where did I see it? Might have been here. I think there's just a tiny little bit of surface rust there. So I'm not too worried about leaving bits of seam sealer and not being so pedantic about maybe I will, but cleaning out every spot weld and getting the coating out of them. Most of them I have had a go at getting the coating out. I think the wire cone seems to work pretty well for that. But yeah, I don't think that there's much of a risk of this rusting. Like put it into perspective, that floor has been kept in that condition, that great condition since 1979. So what's that, 46 years? And for it to last at least the rest of my lifetime with what I'm about to do with it, I think there is absolutely no problem with what I'm doing here. So next step is really just getting a tool to be able to get into all of these little places. Did actually manage to get round behind that lip there with the strip disc for the most part. I think I'm seeing a light at the end of the tunnel. It's been 18 months since I flipped this cab up to strip the underbody. I've been trying not to let that bug me though, about how long it's taking, because this is a hobby. It's supposed to be fun and relaxing and not have that pressure of deadlines and obligation. I could have had it sandblasted and epoxied, but I would have missed out on some of the things I really wanted out of this project, was to learn how to do a lot of these things. I also wanted to have that intimate knowledge of how this car is constructed and the condition that it's in, which I would have missed out on, I think, if I'd handed it over to somebody else to get it ready for paint. I know it's not the right way, it's not the best way, it's not the optimal way, but it's my car and so it's my way, I suppose. I want this for the experience, and I'm really enjoying every step of the way, which I think is all this should be about. What I also love about working manually on it like this is it's, I guess it's almost a type of meditation, just being alone and not having any distractions or deadlines or things to think about. It's just a focus on a single, fairly straightforward, hands-on task. And all of that's the complete opposite to my work. So I do find it really restoring to do this this way. If you do have any tips on what you've done for stripping the underbody of cars, I'm curious to learn about what sort of tools you found have worked, or other techniques, like maybe not power tools, maybe there's some kind of like paint stripper or other method of getting this stuff off. As you've seen, some of it's really quite thick and rubbery, and it's I just don't know the best way to get it off. I don't even know what it is. So yeah, if you do have any experience or tips you want to share in the comments, it'd be great. I have learned so much from everyone sharing their experiences with similar projects. And I love that. It's really one of the reasons that I started the channel, was to just kind of open it up to learn from other people. This is the first time I've done this sort of project, and don't profess to know anything. Actually, more than half of this I'm figuring out as I go along, or just learning what I can from other people. So yeah, thanks for sharing this build with me. And I'll see you hopefully a bit more frequently now with more updates on the progress of this very cool Holden HZ 1-tonner.